Okay, so what if I told you there was this biblical story, right? And it has everything like a truly righteous hero, a maiden in serious distress, a hidden demon, even an archangel undercover. But it's a story you've likely never actually encountered before. Today, we're doing a deep dive into the Book of Tobit. It's this really extraordinary narrative. It weaves together adventure, deep faith, family devotion, and some pretty incredible divine intervention. It's captivated believers for, well, over 2,000 years. So, our mission here is to unpack this text. We want to explore why it holds such a treasured place in the Bible for several major Christian traditions, even though, yeah, it's unfamiliar to many people today. We're aiming to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge and insight from the sources you shared with us.
And I think right off the bat, it's really crucial to get a handle on its canonical status because Tobit is considered divinely inspired scripture. It's included in the biblical canon of the Roman Catholic Church, the Greek Orthodox, Coptic Orthodox, Ethiopian Orthodox, Syrian Antiochian Orthodox, Oriental Orthodox churches, and the Assyrian Church of the East. Just to give you a sense of scale here, these churches represent well over 1 billion Christians across the globe who see this book as fully biblical.
Wow. That's a huge number, isn't it? 1 billion people. And it's not just some historical curiosity either. For almost 300 years of early Christianity, right from the church's start in AD 33 up until Constantine Tobit was widely accepted, it was used. You had early church fathers quoting from it, liturgies using its prayers, Christian art showing its scenes. So, okay, with that kind of historical weight behind it, what kind of story are we actually talking about here? Get ready, because we're going on a journey through its frankly surprising history, its really dramatic storyline, and themes that honestly still hit home today. I have a feeling you might have an aha moment or two as we dig in. So, where does this incredible story actually kick off?
Okay, so it unfolds during the Assyrian exile. We're talking around the 8th century BC. You have to picture it. The Jewish people, they've been conquered, scattered. They're living as foreigners in, well, pretty hostile lands.
Mm-hmm.
And it's against this backdrop, this suffering and displacement, that we meet our main character, Tobit.
Okay, Tobit. And what's he like? Is he just, another guy trying to survive exile?
Oh, far from it. Tobit is shown as this remarkably devout Jew living in Nineveh, and he holds on to his faith, despite being under pagan rule. He's known for these profound acts of charity, feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, and, this is key, risking his own life to bury fellow Jews. Specifically Jews who'd have been executed and just left unburied by the Assyrian authorities.
Wow. Risking his life.
Absolutely. These acts of mercy, like burying the dead, weren't just nice things to do, they were dangerous. They were defiant in that pagan context. It really shows how true faith sometimes means putting your own safety on the line for the good of the community. Pretty radical, really, for any time.
And then this personal catastrophe strikes him. His righteousness, instead of leading to, an easy life, actually brings suffering. What's the significance of that paradox here?
Yeah, it's a deep theme, isn't it? It echoes things we see elsewhere in Scripture, like obviously the book of Job comes to mind. So one night, after burying a dead man, Tobit has to sleep outside because he's ritually unclean according to Jewish law. And while he's sleeping, bird droppings fall into his eyes, and it causes blindness.
Just like that, bird droppings.
Just like that. And this personal disaster becomes this profound test of his faith. It brings up that age-old question, why do good people suffer? But it's also the point where his unwavering devotion really shines through, even in this incredibly dark trial.
Okay, so here's Tobit. He's blind, he's suffering, he's crying out to God. But the story doesn't just focus on him, does it?
Exactly. And this is where the bigger picture starts to connect. God hears prayers coming from two very different places, almost simultaneously. While Tobit is suffering there in Nineveh, far away in a city called Media, there's a young woman named Sarah. She happens to be a relative of Tobit. And Sarah is facing her own absolutely harrowing trial. She's been married 7 times. 7 times. But every single husband has been tragically killed on their wedding night by a demon named Asmodeus.
Asmodeus, I've heard that name. Often linked with lust or destruction in ancient traditions.
That's the one, a really malevolent figure. So Sarah, understandably, is also crying out to God in total desperation. She even thinks about ending her own life before deciding to trust in God's mercy instead.
It's hard to even wrap your head around that level of despair, losing 7 husbands like that. What does it tell us that she still cries out to God about resilience, maybe?
I think it speaks volumes about, that deep human need for hope and that innate desire for divine help when everything else has just completely failed. Both Tobit and Sarah, they hit absolute rock bottom. Their only option left is God.
And God responds.
He does. He sends the archangel Raphael to help both of them. But crucially, Raphael disguises himself. He appears as a human traveler, calling himself Azarius. And this introduces one of the book's really key themes, God's providence working through what looks like, well, just ordinary circumstances.
Okay, so not a big flashy miracle like a lightning bolt.
No, nothing like that. It's this quiet, disguised presence. It kind of teaches us that divine help often unfolds through everyday encounters, through human choices, maybe things we don't even notice at the time, not just grand spectacles.
That's a powerful idea, divine help arriving in the most unassuming ways. So, how does this disguised angel actually get involved in the story?
Well, this divine intervention comes about through what feels like a classic hero's journey structure. Tobit, even though he's blind, remembers he's owed some money. He decides to send his son, Tobias, on a long journey to Media to collect this debt. And who should offer to guide him? Raphael, still disguised as Azarius, and their journey together turns into a real adventure, filled with some pretty miraculous events.
An adventure indeed. I remember this part. Tobias is washing in a river and this huge fish attacks him.
Exactly. A giant fish lunges at him, and Raphael tells him, catch it, and save its heart, liver, and gall.
Organs from a fish. Why?
Well, Raphael says they'll be useful later. They prove absolutely crucial, but in ways Tobias couldn't possibly guess at that moment. Talk about foreshadowing.
Okay, so they have the fish parts. They continue to Media.
Yes. When they arrive, Raphael reveals something else to Tobias. Sarah, the woman who lost 7 husbands. She's his closest eligible relative. And according to custom, Tobias has the right, maybe even the duty to marry her.
Whoa, okay. Marry the woman whose husbands keep dying on the wedding night. That takes some courage.
It certainly does. But Raphael assures him it will be okay.
Uh,
On their wedding night, following Raphael's specific instructions, Tobias takes the fish's heart and liver and burns them as incense. And the smoke and smell drive away the demon Asmodeus. It breaks that tragic, deadly cycle that had afflicted Sarah for so long.
Amazing. So it's like direct spiritual warfare, faith and obedience overcoming this demonic force.
Precisely. It's a very vivid depiction of that.
And the miracles don't stop there, do they? What about the gall?
Right, the fish's gall. When Tobias returns home, he uses that gall, again as Raphael instructed, to anoint his father Tobit's eyes. And Tobit's sight is restored.
Oh, imagine that moment. After all that time, blindness gone, suffering turned into joy. It's such a complete turnaround for both families, isn't it?
It's truly remarkable. A complete reversal of fortune. And the ending, the resolution, is just as profound. Because only then, after everything is resolved, does Raphael finally reveal his true identity. He tells them he is Raphael, one of the 7 archangels who stand in God's presence.
They must have been absolutely stunned.
Utterly amazed, realizing they'd been traveling with, guided by, protected by one of heaven's chief messengers all along. And then Raphael ascends to heaven, leaving behind this transformed family that their faith tested and now, abundantly rewarded.
Wow. Okay, so having walked through that incredible journey, it's obvious this story is way more than just an adventure tale. What are some of the enduring lessons here, the things that resonated with early Christians and maybe still speak to us today?
Well, first and foremost, I think it profoundly demonstrates God's providence and his divine care. You see Tobit and Sarah cry out in total desperation, right? And God responds almost immediately. He sets help in motion. It's a powerful assurance that, no prayer goes unheard, no suffering is invisible to God. It really speaks to God's intimate involvement in our lives.
Yeah, that intimate involvement. And that ties right into the whole spiritual dimension, doesn't it? The role of Raphael is so central.
Exactly. That gives us some really rich teaching about angelic ministry and also about spiritual warfare. Raphael's guidance clearly shows God sending heavenly help. And the defeat of Asmodeus, well, that illustrates victory over evil through faith and obedience to divine instructions, using the means God provides.
Early Christians must have found immense comfort in that idea of spiritual protection.
Oh, absolutely. And those themes still resonate today, I think. They remind us that there's a spiritual reality, unseen forces at work, both good and bad, beyond just what we perceive day to day.
That point about angelic ministry, it is really compelling, especially thinking about how many people still find comfort or maybe intrigue in that idea today. But moving beyond the supernatural, the story also seems to put a really strong emphasis on human relationships.
Oh, definitely. The book really highlights the sanctity of family, of marriage, and just basic virtue. The relationship that develops between Tobias and Sarah becomes this beautiful model of a God-centered marriage. It's rooted in prayer, faith, mutual respect, and Tobias's dedication to his father, Tobit, his willingness to go on that dangerous journey, it perfectly exemplifies filial duty, honoring your parents.
Right. And these aren't just presented as abstract ideas, are they? They're shown through the characters' actual lives and choices.
Precisely, they're lived out.
And you mentioned its impact on prayer earlier.
Yes, its impact on prayer and liturgical life was significant. The book itself contains some beautiful prayers. Tobit's Hymn of Praise in chapter 13 is a great example. Early Christians actually incorporated prayers like these into their worship services. So these prayers provided language, a framework for Christian devotion and thanksgiving. They really became part of the fabric of their spiritual lives.
Okay, so personal devotion, family, marriage, but there's also a social dimension.
Yes, absolutely. Beyond personal piety, Tobit strongly highlights charitable works and, you could say, social justice. Tobit's unwavering commitment to burying the dead, even at great personal risk, feeding the hungry, caring for the marginalized, these reflect core Christian values of mercy and social responsibility. For early Christians living under often oppressive Roman rule, Tobit was a powerful model. He showed how to live faithfully, how to practice mercy, even when it was countercultural or even dangerous. His actions weren't just pious, they were, in a way, politically defiant.
Okay, so with all this profound depth, this historical influence, why isn't it better known? Why haven't many of us, encountered this book? Why isn't it as universally recognized as, say, David and Goliath or Noah's Ark?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? It really comes down to a major historical turning point, the Protestant Reformation in the 16th century. During that period, the Reformers began to question the canonical status of several books found in the Catholic and Orthodox Bibles, including Tobit. These are sometimes called the Apocrypha or deuterocanonical books. They decided to adopt a somewhat narrower biblical canon based primarily on the Hebrew Bible as it was recognized in Judaism at that time, rather than the broader collection found in the
The
Septuagint.
Septuagint, that's the ancient Greek translation of the Hebrew scripture.
Exactly, and that was the version most widely used by the early Christians and is still foundational for the Eastern churches. So the Reformers favored the Hebrew canon, which didn't include Tobit, leading to its exclusion from most Protestant Bibles.
Right. And it's important to clarify, this doesn't necessarily mean Tobit is less biblical or uninspired from the perspective of those traditions that kept it. It just reflects different historical criteria decisions about which books make up the definitive list of scripture.
Precisely. The fact remains that the majority of Christians worldwide, historically and today, do regard Tobit as fully biblical. So it's definitely not some obscure fringe text.
Okay, well, as we start to bring this deep dive to a close, I really hope you've seen the profound value in rediscovering the Book of Tobit, regardless of where you personally land on its canonical status. Reading this book, it really does open a window into the vibrant faith of early Christianity, and it offers insights that feel relevant for pretty much any spiritual journey.
Yeah, absolutely. If we were to synthesize, maybe boil down the key takeaways we've touched on, we clearly see God's faithful care, His providence, even in the absolute darkest moments. We see the reality and, yes, the comfort of angelic ministry and the truth of spiritual warfare. We're reminded of the timeless importance of family, marriage, virtue. The power of just persistent prayer comes through so strongly. And finally, that clear call to charitable works, to mercy, to a form of social justice in caring for others.
It's such a compelling narrative arc, isn't it? Moving from suffering that gets transformed into joy, blindness literally giving way to sight, and divine help showing up in the most unexpected ways. It really is a testament to resilience and faith, and a beautiful picture of how intertwined our human lives can be with the divine.
And maybe, if we connect this to the bigger picture for a moment, the Book of Tobit reminds us that our God isn't distant or, uncaring. He's shown as being intimately involved in the details, the nitty-gritty of our lives, sending help through angels, yes, but also working through very ordinary circumstances, through other people, through our choices, and ultimately transforming our trials into testimonies of His grace. Which maybe leaves us with an important question to ponder. What hidden treasures might you discover? Maybe in overlooked corners of ancient texts like this one, or perhaps even in your own life. Where might divine help be working right now through seemingly ordinary circumstances?
That's a great thought to end on. We really encourage you to reflect on this deep dive and maybe, explore the Book of Tobit further on your own. You might just be surprised by what you find there.